All right, everybody. In the interest of time, why don't we go ahead and get started? Great to see everybody here this morning. Welcome to the July edition, if you can believe that. We're in July of the DuPage ROSC Presentation Series. My name is Jared Burton. I am your ROSC coordinator. Great to be here with everyone. Just a couple housekeeping things. Let's make sure we're keeping our microphones muted unless it's time for questions or comments at the end. That helps us to just kind of cut down on stuff. I think there's going to be quite a few people at this meeting, so it'll help cut down on that. And then at the end, if there's time, for discussion, but also if there's anything at the end that y'all would like to promote for your organization, we'll try to find some time to do that too. So good to be here. Why don't I go ahead and share my screen and we'll get into what we're talking about today, which is the wild world of vape shops. All right, let me go ahead and get this started. Annette, since I see you, can give me the thumbs up if you can see this. Awesome. All right. So yeah, welcome everybody. If you've attended these presentation series before, you'll know that it's an opportunity for us to take a little bit more time to dig into a topic that's on the recovery continuum. So something related to substance use or mental health in all its forms. If you attend like the regular Ross meetings, you'll know that you don't get a ton of time in some of those segments, right? Sometimes if we're spotlighting either organization or maybe something that's coming up, we don't get time like this. So it's good to be able to take this full hour to kind of get into some of this stuff, which as you'll see, this is quite a bit of stuff that's showing up in these vape shops. Me and my team have been going out over the past few months to not only talk to like vape shop owners and employees, but also to take photos and kind of show y'all what's happened in the past year as far as where some of these substances have gone and where they're going. And believe me, there is stuff that will surprise you. It surprised us, and a lot of us have worked in this field for a while. So let's go ahead and get started. The reason we even got into this, well, first of all, 100 vape and smoke shops is probably pretty conservative. I don't know of like the actual tally, but it's quite a few. And that's not counting gas stations and like other types of shops that are selling some of these substances we're going to be talking about. So we're talking about like hundreds of different places that you can access some of these materials. It's tough to get a grip on who's selling what and what are the legalities around them. Not all shops are created equal. Some of the stuff they carry is different. And not only that, it's tough to really understand kind of the legal nature of some of these substances because there isn't like just blanket jurisdictional rules on stuff. So we'll talk about that. Keep you guys updated and current on what we're seeing. And this is really important. We educate, we don't demonize. I think sometimes in these presentations, if we start talking about things like, bans or prohibition of stuff, realize that sometimes that often drives users underground. So we want to make sure that we are not demonizing the substances, but merely just educating everybody on what's out there. Just as we get through each segment or each section, I'm just going to do some like brief primers on some of these substances, just in case you're unaware or unfamiliar with what they are. We're going to cover about 5 or 6 substances today that seem to be the crux of what these shops are selling. And this is beyond just vapes. We really don't have time to go into the vape and the nicotine portion of this, but understand that those are being sold. And those are usually like the #1 sellers of a lot of these shops. So we're talking about the stuff beyond just the nicotine vapes. Kratom is largely the #1 seller at a lot of these places. If it's not the cannabinoids, so like the deltas, it's usually one of these two. So Kratom has been popular for the past few years. Kratom's been sold all over the place for probably a better part of a decade or more now. So you've probably seen this. And if at the very least you've driven by a store where you see this word in the front, if you go by any vape shop, it's like the big neon signs for all of these substances. Kratom is in like every window. So I challenge you guys to check that out when you're out checking out these shops. What is kratom? It's literally just a plant that kind of is in the coffee family, but they use the leaves and extracts for medicinal purposes originally over in Southeast Asia, Thailand, Indonesia, kind of that triangle over there. But they've been using this stuff traditionally for medicinal and spiritual purposes for the past 100, 200 years. It kind of came over here in the early 2000s. There's not like one patient zero for where kratom kind of got a foothold here in the US, but you started seeing reports of it online as far back as the early 2000s. And it was usually talked about in the capacity of being something that opioid users were using as a replacement. So we saw that people were hopping off of the harder substances using kratom. This stuff's primarily consumed orally, so you're going to see it available in a number of forms, though. You're going to see powders, tablets, capsules. What's really popular right now are the concentrated extracts and liquid shots, which we'll show you here in a little bit. But currently, more than 2 million Americans identify as using kratom in the past year, and as we know, those numbers are usually underreported. So that is quite a few Americans using kratom on a daily basis. Kratom industry brings in $1 billion annually in the U.S. That's billion with a B, so it is a very, very big business. If you look over here on the right, you'll see this is kind of a standard setup. When you walk into a shop, you'll come over and maybe see the kratom section. When you see back here, this is like a lot of loose leaf kratom here in this area where I'm kind of circling with the mouse. But over here, you'll start to see some of the extracts and capsules and things like that. But you'll largely see it in kind of this loose form or capsules. But it kind of works similarly to opioids, sometimes stimulants, and the reason that is because there's different strains. And that got a great picture we'll talk about coming up, which is almost like a kratom menu, and it showed you by each strain what it does, the different types of effects for you, so you actually can like kind of order off of a menu at some of these places. So depending on the dosage, depending on the strain, it can have different effects. For instance, like red is going to be like a sedative strain, kind of similar to opioids. Green may be used for like energy or stimulation. There's even stuff like white strains, which is like almost like designer strain, which has like some of both. So there's a few different types you might run into, or you might deal with clients who run into this type of thing. The way it works on the body, over here on the right, this is one of those extra strength concentrate shots I was talking about. These are so popular. The gas station by my house, they sell these by the register. So that's just at a gas station. But it's really tough to overdose on kratom. It pretty much doesn't happen, just because of the ceiling effect it has, but it can cause some issues, right? It's going to have some similar effects, like we said, to opioids. So all the GI issues, irritability, agitation. You also get people who get like vertigo, tachycardia. So at large doses, it can be very toxic. So a lot of like possibilities for liver damage. But yeah, so you'll see it have those different effects, and then when people stop taking it or cessation, there may be different types of withdrawal effects they go through depending on which strain they were using. But risk for dependence on this stuff kind of is for the individuals who are consuming those really large doses of kratom. So what they identify as large is like more than 5 grams a day, or the frequencies 3 times or more a day. Frequency is something that gets overlooked in some of these reports, and we've talked to owners who will tell us that they have customers who are coming back multiple times in the same day to get some of this stuff. So we're seeing frequency too, not just the amount consumed. Okay, so we'll start going over some photos. Now, we went, like I said, to about a dozen different shops, and I will talk kind of with my staff towards the end so we can kind of get through some of these photos. But this is at a number of different shops. Now, this is just one little section, right? So this is one glass case section in a shop here in DuPage. This is all kratom. Now, when I say one section, this is a massive store. So this is just one little area of stuff that one of these shops carries. So you'll see capsules up here. You also see the different types of capsules here. Remember how I mentioned those strains earlier? They're color coded. So all you have to know is the type of strain you want, and you can usually go by color. So yeah, up here too, you'll also see different brands of the capsules. So a lot of different choices for people who are, looking to get into kratom or kratom users currently. Annette took these two, some other shots. She'll tell you about this experience. Actually, Annette, come off mute for 1 second for this one. So didn't you tell me that the owners of this shop didn't really even know what they had or what it was?
Exactly what I shared was that, the owners of that shop not only had no reasoning of what they were selling, he actually, every time I asked him for a price, he was actually talking to somebody on the phone and asking that person and relaying that to that person. So even for example, a pack of cigarettes, I asked him how much were the cigarettes, and he said, give me like kind of told me, give me a second, and started talking to somebody else on the phone. So, kind of like, they're there in person, but they're really not there. And
Yeah.
someone else on the phone is actually like, breaking, brokering this
Yeah.
deal or this sale.
Yeah, like relaying the info.
Yes, relaying the info.
And I'll also tell you, like, I've been in some of these shops too when there's been customers in, and I've rarely, if ever, seen anyone carded for any of this stuff. That's the other thing. The
That's
carding
another
right
thing,
now.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly while I was there, a few people came in, and mind you, they looked older. I'm not gonna be
Yeah.
biased about it. They did look older. But yeah, no, at no point did they ask for an ID or anything, any type of identification.
Yeah, which is pretty wild. But you'll see here, like, again, the strains are usually color coded, but we're also seeing over here our good friend that we're going to talk about shortly, which is 7.0 and pseudo and doxal. So that has its own section, and we're just kind of talking about the kratom portion of this right now. But again, over here, a ton of different like product types, but also different brands. And some shops have, sales agreements with brands. So you may see some at some shop, some at a different one. This was the strain chart that I was mentioning earlier that was at a shop Annette went to. So you'll see down here the effects are color coded. So if you wanted sedation mixed with pain relief, you can kind of go by each individual strain and see exactly what it's going to do to you. Which is pretty interesting. It's like on demand. You can pick your effect. And then over here, yeah, you actually see some of these shops are so bizarre. Like they'll have like maybe loosely stuff next to like a Bitcoin like ATM. Like very very strange. Some of these shops, the stuff they have in there. I did mention 7.0 right before this. That's most of what you guys are probably hearing about. A lot of you who may be dealing with folks in like the acute point of detox, especially. I know they're showing up at not only ERs but like at the crisis center here in DuPage, and that is 7.0. So if you're unfamiliar, I'll just kind of go a little bit quickly through this. But 7.0, which is often sold or marketed as all natural or a kratom product, when it is actually not that. It shares a trace amount of an alkaloid with kratom. So whenever you see all natural, that really is a stretch. The rest is mostly concentrates or semi-synthetics. There is a huge amount of different ways that you can get 7-OH or 7.0, which we'll talk about here in a minute. You may occasionally see that has a potentially greater potency than morphine. Again, whenever you see that, I always say, okay, in a vacuum, sure, that doesn't mean that every brand is going to have that potency. It's just that it has the possibility of being made to that level. Just the risk real quick, again, it's going to bind to those opioid receptors, especially with the mu opioid receptors. So it's going to have those effects that are on par with traditional opiates or opioids. So the greatest hits, right? Analgesia, respiratory depression, high risk of dependence, especially because of those actions on those receptors. But it also has this specialty kind of weird effect on the brain where it's almost like a kindling. So you can actually pick up dependence pretty quickly. Online, anecdotally, talking to partners, they'll have clients who show up maybe having a dependence within using it for a week. I think there was one report we got where a user was only using on the weekends, meaning like Friday, Saturday, maybe Sunday, but then would not use during the week. But this happened on consecutive weekends. And when that happened, they felt like they had already had a dependence to it, which is kind of wild to think about. Feel free, which we'll hit more later. You'll probably see these everywhere. This is like, I always tell people, go look on the ground. If you're a walker, if you're in a lot of parking lots, look on the ground. Chances are you may see one of these little blue bottles. Really interesting case study on these. So this is, and I'll talk more about this when we get to the kava section, but the way that this is wreaking havoc right now is because of the 7-OH and the kratom that's included in these shots. So traditionally, there's a couple different brands they put out. One is just kava, which I said is kind of like a sedative substance, a little bit weaker though, kind of used as an alcohol substitute sometimes, but they've been putting 7-OH and kratom into these concentrated shots, and that is what is causing dependence. So I challenge you, look outside for these feel-free bottles, go on TikTok, search feel free. You'll see hundreds of videos of people talking about trying to get off of this stuff. There's a Reddit community, Quitting Feel Free, that has like thousands of people posting about this. I mean, it really has sprung up over the past couple of years. 7-OH, again, multiple types that you'll see, capsules, drink mixes, candy, all over the place, vapes. So this is a relatively newer one, and I got a good quote about this one towards the end. It's like we couldn't find a quick enough delivery system through the tablets, so we had to do a vape version. So yeah, these are available out there on the shelves. Couple of shots we'll go through of various vape shops we visited, and I'll kind of walk you through what we're looking at here. So over on the left, this is a shop over in Addison, actually. Starting up here at the top, and again, just kind of look for the cursor here. This is all 70H and pseudoindoxyl, which is 70H's cousin. So whenever you see pseudoindoxyl, you can kind of look at that sort of in the same mode as 70H. But that is all of this right here. And then down here are the concentrated kratom shots and capsules. This is right by the register, by the way. Over here, this is a shop in Lombard, and you can see a register right here. All of the 70H, the different forms, and the kratom is right here by the register. So you can see this is prime real estate in some of these shops. Over here, I want to talk about, in these photos, the colors. I mean, take a look at this. The reason that these are so brightly colored, and by the way, this is all 70H, this is all 70H and pseudoindoxyl, this is all 70H and pseudoindoxyl. These are flavored. That's right. These are all flavors. Everything from like watermelon to dreamsicle to key lime pie to, I mean, you name it, they've got it. Which is kind of wild when you think about these people having to show up to ERs and crisis centers over stuff that's like dreamsicle flavored. It's really kind of surreal when you think about it. The other thing I want to point out, obviously with the colors, it pops. I mean, the marketing on these is pretty genius when you think about it, the way that they're marketing to people. But the colors kind of draw you in, and each of these, right? I'm talking like the 4, 5, 6 capsules here. This is up to like $59.99. I mean, $60, $75 for some of these that are a little bit stronger. I mean, that is like even more than some illicit drugs that people are spending money on. So that's just one purchase. So when you imagine people coming back multiple times a day, it's a little scary. Some more photos here. Over here, look at these. This is almost like a boutique. And I don't even know. I guess they're smaller tablets maybe, but this looks like a brand that just stuck a sticker on top of all these. But the other thing with these, look at the names. These are some of the most cynical cash grab names that I've seen for something that is trying to say it's not mimicking opioids. So look at the names, right? So Opia, Ohms, Roxy. Over here, Pill Pack. I mean, this is about as blatant as you can get for who they're marketing to and why they're marketing it that way. Again, over here, we're looking at some of the strength, 1600 milligrams. I mean, these are massive, massive strengths. Same thing with these, some of these packets of capsules. Each of these little capsules is scored, I think, into like 4 pieces. And so, of course, they're saying, consume as directed, which is like a little quarter of one of those pieces, which we all know that is not how people are consuming those. If you look at this photo in the middle, these are actually boxes containing multiples of these packets of capsules, meaning people are purchasing them in the larger forms like that, which is pretty wild when you think about it. I'm going to talk to Daria, one of our folks at the end when we're talking to some other people, but she had sent me a couple things on what's being marketed as 7OH alternatives, which is a very, very interesting name for it because all it is pseudoindoxyl. So they're kind of pushing this now as the safer alternative, but these options like pseudoindoxyl and oxynol, these are also these semi-synthetics that are not safe or even safer than some of the 7OH, but they're saying it has high standards for purity and consistency. Again, this is like very, very bizarre to see. We're going to get off the 7OH, but we're going to get you on this stuff, which, as we know, can really be a dangerous situation sometimes. The second fastest growing section in almost all the shops we went to these days are mushrooms, so mushroom edibles. These products, which are sometimes marketed maybe as gummies or legal shroom products, really contain little to no psilocybin mushroom material. This is important because when, in the traditional sense, when you hear magic mushrooms referred to, or you hear people tripping on mushrooms, those are psilocybin mushrooms. That is not what is in these that are being sold at some of these shops. Now, psilocybin mushrooms, I think there's legislation it's been trying to get it legalized in Illinois. I know it's been legalized in some other states. So it's in the news. So people probably see stuff like this and think, oh, well, maybe that's the mushrooms I've been hearing about, and it's really not. Instead, these products contain like botanical extracts, synthetics, some research chemicals. And then they have this little thing where they say proprietary blends, which is a way that they can say, well, we had a bunch of stuff, but we don't want to put it on the label. The packaging and artwork can suggest that it's psychedelic, but these ingredients can be something completely different sometimes. A lot of these may contain Amanita muscaria extract, which, if you know anything about mushrooms, can cause some psychoactive effects, but it has some really nasty side effects if you have no tolerance or you take too much of Amanita muscaria. Notice too in these photos, I mean, this looks like candy. It's called Shroom Fused Max, and you can see here double the dose compared to normal shroom sized. And these are straw melon gummies. Again, I mean, this basically is almost indistinguishable from candy or gum or something. So, I mean, the health risks exist, right, from these products. So, like agitation, delirium, even like tachycardia and hypertension. So, this stuff can like skyrocket blood pressure, cause nausea, vomiting. People get really bad anxiety and panic attacks. In fact, if you look online, most of the like trip reports or the people making videos are talking about like nightmare scenarios being locked in on these legal mushroom gummies. So again, I challenge everybody to go online and take a look at some of this, but difficult to navigate because of that wide range of ingredients. Also, when people are maybe showing up to ERs, or even let's say like maybe they're chronic users of some of this stuff and they maybe want to go to treatment, just saying to somebody, "Oh, I took mushroom gummies," really doesn't provide like a good diagnostic info for what we're supposed to do when people show up with that. So you can see the challenges we're facing. Some more mushroom products here again. Let's take a look at the packaging. Remember how I said they will often mimic or kind of ape these psychedelic imagery? So you see here kind of the magic mushrooms. Same thing here with these gummies in the middle, and then over here as well. This right here is actually, it looks like a shroom, a vape liquid right here. And then over here we've got like a chocolate bar. So as you can see, like a wide range of stuff that is being sold. And a lot of these places would tell us or tell me or Annette or somebody else, like, this is what people are curious about. This is what they're coming and asking about right now. So it'll be interesting to see over the next year, like if these sales like plateau out or if it's just going to continue getting bigger. Over here was a shop in DuPage. You can see, again, kind of near the register down here. These are all mushroom products. Annette over here got this one. These are mushroom chocolates. $8.99 a piece. Look at this. Cookies and cream and strawberry milk flavor. And I think he told Annette that he sells quite a few of those, which is very interesting. I'm going to talk about cannabinoids and the deltas just briefly. The reason that we're not talking about these as much as we used to is because, as you'll see, dispensaries have taken like away like a lot of this population. But believe me, they are still selling a ton of it in these shops, just not as much as they used to. Sometimes users will call this stuff like diet weed. You know, it's a little bit less psychoactive than some of the more traditional cannabinoids or traditional THC. But if you're younger and you're going in here, you're getting access to this stuff. Yeah, there's still, 100 cannabinoids that's in a plant. A lot of them sometimes do end up in these products. Wide range as well. You've got edibles. You've got a ton of vapes. I would say beyond just the regular nicotine vapes, the THC vapes or the THC Delta 8 or any of these others are probably like one of the second most popular items in a lot of these shops. A lot of promotions around them, and then like a lot of different types. But a lot of these have not been evaluated or approved by the FDA, like many other products we're going to be talking about. So we're dealing with gray areas with quite a few of these products. So they may be labeled as hemp products if you're kind of aware right now. Hemp is in the news because of legislation. But that may mislead customers to believe like maybe hemp is not psychoactive. Or maybe hemp product is just like a CBD type effect, when in reality, these are all very psychoactive to different degrees. The gummies too. I mean, if you just look at that photo of Trey House, which is one of the more popular brands inside the vape shops, at least. I mean, this looks again indistinguishable from candy or gummies. Again, it doesn't say right up here, not for consumption for kids or anything. If you don't know anything about this, you may just glance over it completely. But I also saw a lot of cookies, like baked goods, edibles like that. But the packaging is appealing. It's appealing to younger people, teens, not only the types of stuff that they put it in, but also that packaging, right? So, stuff that's hard to miss when you're in some of these shops. Just a couple of photos I wanted to point out because again, we're not seeing like as much of a push with some of these products as we are in the other items. But look over here. This is actually at a gas station, which is a little bit of a change, even though some of the photos will be from gas stations. I mean, they're selling pre-rolls here. If you're unfamiliar with pre-rolls, it's literally just pre-rolled flour. So somebody could just like go walk into the gas station, put 20 on pump three, and walk away with some pre-rolls. There's also some promotions, and I've got a couple slides towards the end about the world of vape shop promotions, but you see a ton of them. Over here, they're doing deals. So you could buy one vape for 35, but up to three for 85. So you can get some BOGOs and other deals going on. And these are some of those THC related vapes we talked about. Nitrous oxide has not gone away. It didn't necessarily have like a prolonged popularity at that level like we thought it may last year, but it's still there. Quite in quite a few shops, they still sell nitrous oxide. So for those of you who are like, "What the hell, nitrous oxide? That's what I get at the dentist." Yes, it's very similar, and that's why we're going to talk about. It's very odd that they're selling them in some of these shops, but nitrous oxide. A few different ways you may have seen it or you may be familiar with it. I think most people, like we said, there's the medical uses where they may put you under. You may have heard it referred to as laughing gas. So they may put you under for like dental procedures. But the other most popular form is in the culinary world. So nitrous oxide is just that gas that they put into like ready whipped cans of whipped cream or anything that has a culinary use, like at Starbucks with those whipped cream guns. That's all powered by nitrous oxide. So now you can buy this stuff in consumer form and use it recreationally, but they are still marketed as culinary products, which is funny. It's almost like the old smoke shop thing of for tobacco use only when they sell bongs. It's like, okay, well, come on, we all know that they're not putting tobacco on the bongs, and we all know that this is not being used for culinary purposes. They are increasingly available at vape and smoke shops, but they're also available at culinary stores, so like kitchen supply stores, depots, things like that. It's appealing because it's pretty cheap. There's not a ton of regulation around it. And it's also perceived safe because of its legitimate culinary and medical uses. I'm going to show some photos from online. Nitrous oxide, consumer grade nitrous, had a moment in the sun on social media last year. It was very popular with some rappers and some other just different subcultures, especially in the South. But look over here on the right, you'll see this is just like one dumpster's worth of nitrous canisters. The little nitrous, they call them crackers that they add to the whipped cream guns at Starbucks. Those are the ones you can buy at culinary stores, and those are all over the ground. I think it was last summer, me and Annette would just be floored. Like we would just be walking, and you find these things all over the ground, and we'd be like, okay, well, someone was doing nitrous over here. You know, they weren't making Starbucks drinks in this parking lot. So some of the effects this has on the body, it's hard to test for this stuff, and it's hard to find indicators for like use beyond stuff like vitamin depletion. So this stuff has like hugely depletes your B12, which causes some like peripheral neuropathy. It causes like pins and needles in your extremities, difficulty walking. It's kind of similar to inhalant abuse. Has a lot of some of those same effects. But like you said, routine lab work may appear normal. Unless they've been using this chronically for a long time and you can detect those vitamin levels. But again, some of this popularity was largely driven by social media. Here's some photos of some nitrous you could buy at a local smoke shop. I think this one might have been in Carroll Stream or Wheaton, or maybe even Naperville, but these down here on the bottom, this is just one little section of a store's nitrous. So these are all, if you say, wow, those look big, it's because they are. Each of these is probably coming up to almost like, I don't know, would you say, now you can nod, like maybe up to like your knee if you're shorter, but I mean, they're big. And each one of these, it comes out that size. And so kids and adults are kind of sucking on these nitrous containers. Over here, you'll see in a larger photo, these are actually almost look like made to mimic the whipped cream canisters. They actually says whip it on it. So you can buy everything you need, including balloons. One way that you can consume this is by putting the gas into balloons and then you suck the gas out of the balloon. The reason they do that is because sucking on the actual little top part to it can give you frostbite. So they put it into balloons when they use it. Over here on the left, if anyone plays video games, I mean, this looks like the Grand Theft Auto cover art or from the video game when I was a kid. I mean, this is kind of how they're marketing some of this stuff. And then over here, you'll see Whip It, the original cream whipper, which again is, I'm sure, just for culinary use only. That's why they sell it as a smoke shop. So kava, that's another one that has started to become more and more popular. Kava is a drink. The way it's prepared usually is a drink from the roots of this plant. Kind of like kratom and some of these other, it has these roots in Polynesia and Micronesia, some of these other South Pacific islands. Used there largely ceremonial, or it's kind of like just a traditionally prepared, like communal drink over there. In like many ways, that's how it starts and makes its way over. It's spread globally. There's really an increasing popularity worldwide. Commercial products, quite a few, and I think that's maybe the refrain you'll hear is the different and wide range of types that people could get. So it's not just capsules or powders, it's drinks, it's bars. There's kava bars that are spreading up in major cities as an alternative to alcohol. So it does have a psychoactive effect, kind of as that sedative, but they are kind of promoting it as an alternative to alcohol. Again, just talking about the different forms here. The traditional form is, I guess, the most popular originally, but harder to find. But you still can find them. Our friend Cheryl in Batavia at Urban Apothecary, I know, carried kava as an alternative to alcohol and other things. So there are actual legitimate uses for it. But we see it back in our good friend Feel Free. So over here, I just wanted to point out a couple of photos and we'll look at some more here in a minute. Just the way that this stuff gets marketed, this is right out front of a shop. They've got signage for Feel Free even before you walk in. So this is right over here in the parking lot. And then another shop over here, the smoke shop, you'll see Feel Free is sold right up here at the register. I did a couple of stops at some gas stations yesterday to check, and the two stations I stopped at random, one over in Glendale Heights and then one over here in Lombard, both were selling Feel Free near the register. So that's just at gas stations, we're not talking smoke shops. So I won't go through all the Feel Free stuff again, but again, just look down on the ground next time you're out. Look near the register next time you're at a gas station. You'll won't be surprised, I don't think. Some more photos here. Again, this is at a smoke shop kind of near the front. You'll see the way that the Feel Free is marketed right next to the 7OH, right next to the Kratom extracts. Take a look here. You could get a free round of bowling also when you get in, which we're inching towards the promotional phase here in a minute, which I thought this was a good fit here. But yeah, you could walk in and get a free round of bowling on the smoke shop. Again, Feel Free right up here on top of the register even, next to the 7OH. So this stuff is readily available and it's in prime real estate. Just a couple other versions. I didn't see a couple of these in the photos of the trips that I or some of the team went out. They may be in some of those photos, but just I wanted to show some other versions that have started to come out. So again, much like the concentrated kratom and some of the other things, the shots seem to be the most popular, and they market themselves as like the quick, easy option, right? Like just take a shot. You don't have to take capsules all day. Here we've got a vape. The Kava Chill, 1 gram of liquid. You could get a gram of kava in a vape. And we are seeing more and more these little individual drink mixes. So you can take it on the go when you're Stanley. Right here, orange dreamsicle mix. So again, the flavors are super popular in a lot of these items. We're going to talk briefly about the regulatory landscape, which is always a mess. Illinois and then like the municipalities, especially here in DuPage and then in Duquesne and some of the other areas that we do some work in, have begun tightening restrictions on what they called like intoxicating hemp products. So you've probably seen that in the news, but also some other psychoactive substances that are also sold in these shops. Quite a few of the substances we've talked about already. So in some Illinois communities, including our friends over in Wheaton, they kind of adopted like the local ordinances that restrict the sales of some of these things. So the kratom extracts, 7OH, tea and Eptine, which I didn't cover here. I've covered tea and Eptine before. It's not too dissimilar from 7OH. I was kind of expecting it to be bigger than it was a couple of years ago. But I can just tell you anecdotally, I think 7-OH has replaced that as the far more popular version of a synthetic. T-nicotine is still a very dangerous substance, and I'm maybe a little bit worried that if there is kind of like a blanket ban on 7-OH, that some users may move on to T-neptine unless there's some type of movement on that as well. But Wheaton is like, nah, we're not doing with this anymore. So they're trying to move to make it a local ordinance. You see that. You see that in different cities, sometimes jurisdiction to jurisdiction, which makes things really confusing. And then, like, as Annette and I said, we weren't seeing a ton of carding going on either. So even if there was kind of like across the board, these are the laws, we weren't seeing them really enforced regularly. But a lot of legislation restricting the sales of some of this stuff under the age of 21, which is a good thing. I think we could probably agree on some of that. And then they've got marketing requirements. They're going to be coming later in 2026. I think they're trying to crack down on a lot of the ways that these things are marketed, the deceptive packaging, the packaging that could maybe construed as being marketed to adolescents or even younger. So as always, a lot of stuff happening on the like regulatory landscape side of things. And so we try to keep our eye on that. Again, like we said, sometimes demonization of too many of these things can cause a swell of just saying, hey, we're just going to schedule this as Schedule 1, or we're going to do just a ban. And then you see users move on sometimes to harder, more illicit substances. Sometimes they maybe got onto kratom or some of these other things for legitimate pain relief or maybe getting off of heroin or fentanyl. So those people are going to be, either seeking to find a replacement substance or maybe even deciding to have just cessation from everything, in which case those in this field are going to continue to see people showing up for treatment and detox and other things like that. We're going to talk about etc. for a little bit, because it's not just the substances we talked about. There's all kinds of stuff being sold in here. The detoxes, you'll see all kinds of like flush your system out, like these kind of snake oil detox kits. This one was interesting. I've seen this one online too. It's called OR Reset. These are like little capsules you can buy. Now it's kind of promoting itself as a way to both kind of limit the withdrawals from 7-OH, but also to reset your receptors, which is interesting. It's almost it's like a tolerance break or something. Like let's reset, and then you can get right back on it and feel good on 7-OH. I don't know, but they're selling these things at multiple smoke shops. I did an actual like search on stuff like this. So it usually contains, like I said, one of those weird proprietary blends, but it's usually like vitamins. Like this one has L-tyrosine, L-theanine, GABA, and like some other stuff that you could easily buy at like a GNC or even your grocery store. But these are kind of concentrated versions they sell. Check out the cool AI artwork. Over here it says science precision results. That's the OR reset difference. I mean, this sounds very trustworthy to me. I would definitely put this in my body. Promotions. Okay, so Buddy the Vape Dog is not up here. Buddy the Vape Dog is a real thing. He was down in Knoxville. I think he's no longer with us, but there's a ton of promotions happening in the vape shops. In fact, I didn't include all of them because we were getting a little short on time, but these are just a couple right here. Annette found this spinning wheel at one of the shops where you could spin this wheel and win any number of items. So if you spend $75, you spin the wheel. Annette, do you remember what some of these were? Were they just like the items they were selling? Probably.
They were all kind of different items. It was like get two for one, 15% off, all different, different digits of percentage off,
Yeah.
and like free spin, things like that. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Annette also saw the iPhone 15 giveaway. So they had for every $25 spent, you get a raffle ticket. She also saw, I think, a PlayStation 5 being raffled off. So I mean, it's kind of wild when you think about it. They're literally pumping sales with giveaways in a lot of these shops. So this is a small exercise. I wanted to take a look at just one shop. So if you were to walk into this one shop, what would you see? So I'm gonna just say by letting you know this is a shop in Villa Park. So this is here in DuPage. This one actually has a drive-through, so you could actually order all this through the drive-through. But let's look at what is being sold just in this one case as you walk in the front door. So this case up here is everything from some of those deltas and cannabinoids all the way down here into 7-OH, into pseudoindoxyl, and into some of those synthetics. This is another angle just a little bit further down where you see this is the kratom products up here. So you got kratom capsules, you've got loose leaf kratom, you have got the kratom extracts and concentrates in capsule form right here. And then right below it is some of the vape stuff. So this is just nicotine vapes. And then down here, you've got flush your system. You've got stuff to clean your glass pipes or smoking apparatus. So this is just one little part of one section. A little bit further down, you get into more of the capsules of 7-OH and pseudoindoxyl, more of the shots here. Up here, they've even got stuff like Zyn or the little canisters of nicotine pouches. That's another huge seller at these places is those nicotine pouches. And then like we said, more of the THC, even some of the 7-OH vapes over here. The exercise of this one shop is this is not all they have at this one shop. This is just one section at one shop. Behind us here in this photo is actually even more glass cabinets where they have smoking devices, they have more THC vapes, they have a ton more loose leaf kratom and kratom capsules, including pseudoindoxyl and other capsules over there. So, I mean, it is a treasure trove if you walk into any shop out here at random, which is kind of a wild thing to see. One of my favorite parts is talking to employees and owners, because sometimes you can get them to be really honest. Sometimes you can get them to admit to things that is maybe like a little baffling, which we got some of that too. I want to read some of these to you, and I will also share some of this report with anyone who wants it afterwards. We usually post it online too. But some of these quotes that really threw me for a loop. Referring to 7-OH, one guy said, "We sell too much of it, probably. Sometimes it feels like a methadone clinic in here." Actual quote. Just shocking to get that. And this was like the first thing he said when I asked him if he sells a bunch of 7-OH. Another shop owner said, yeah, it's a lot of the same people coming in every day, sometimes multiple times a day. One owner had no idea what it was. He thought it was kratom. So when I said, are you selling a ton of 7-OH? He said, you mean the kratom? And then as he said here to me, he thought it was the same thing. One guy said that he gets people coming in trying to make deals. So like he said, if people come in and say, hey, if I pay in cash, can I get more? Or if I buy more, can you give me a discount? So, I mean, you're getting some of the same kind of like wheeling and dealing that some folks maybe had out in their illicit drug use days. But one guy said people are going to buy what they want to buy. But when he first saw that 7-OH vapes were coming out, he was telling me that there were like marketing agencies and manufacturers who are like, we'll come to your shop and give them away. And so he was like looking at these 7-OH vapes, and that was the one where he said it kind of made him pause for a little bit, like okay, is this too much? And he was kind of laughing about it a little bit. Another shop owner talking about nitrous, saying that the nitrous tanks were like a really big seller for them for a few months. This was actually at a Wheaton shop. So he was saying the nitrous tanks were really big sellers for a little while. But he said no one buys them anymore. The ones over there have been sitting there for a while. So like I said, I think we may have seen some of that nitrous use crater a little bit. One guy said what we had kind of thought, but just wanted to get more info about, which is when the dispensaries opened up out here, like a lot of the Delta sales and those cannabinoid sales went down a little bit because those people were just going to dispensaries now when it became recreational. A lot of the sales are still vapes. That's what one shop is telling me, but kratom is probably like the second most popular. That was a pretty common quote, by the way. When we would say like, hey, what are your top sellers? Kratom was always like in the top 3 or 4. One guy said they're starting to sell a lot more of those mushroom gummies and chocolate bars. He said that was the one that people come in the most curious about. So the most questions he gets are people coming in asking about the mushroom edibles. And then another guy said, Feel Free has been like super duper popular for a couple of years, but he said in the past couple of months is when it's really taken off. And actually, that was a gas station guy telling me that. So imagine just a ton of sales coming out of a gas station for Feel Free. So now I want to talk to some of my staff because my staff did a phenomenal job of going out there, talking to the owners and employees, taking those photos and getting some of this information from us. And so I kind of want to talk to a few of them just for the time we have left, and then we'll maybe get some questions here at the end if we get a chance, because this is always eye-opening. We've done this the past couple of years. This is year two. We've been going out, and it's eye-opening every time. So I'm gonna go back to Annette briefly. So Annette, just tell me some takeaways. What shocked you? Was there anything surprising? What do you want to impart about your trip out there?
So everything shocked me, right? Because I mean, everything is so unknown. I will say, and I will share that it's overstimulating when you walk into these vape shops because there's so much coming at you at the same time. There's a lot of colors, there's a lot of different scents. And now that I'm talking about the scents, when we were talking about these pills that come in different flavors, you can actually smell the scent, when you pick up the tablets. And so when I'm thinking about that, I'm also thinking about, you know, if you're using this at home and you have small children, it's going to be super enticing, not only for small children, but also for animals, because just the scent by itself, it smells like bubble gum. It smells like watermelon. I mean, these are flavors that, again, catch our attention. And so that was terrifying. All of the nitro oxide, but all of the different methods of how people are consuming things. In one shop, I found some synthetic urine right next to like rubber bands and hair products. And this is at a gas station. At another shop, I also, now that I'm just touching on some of the promotional stuff as well. In one of those shops, they were actually selling skateboards as well, like and promoting skateboards. So these kind of, these things signal to me that they're really promoting a lot to the younger generation. They're enticing them with gifts and promotions, and it's scary and it's serious. So I again will invite everyone to just go into your local gas station. Look at what's in the counter. It's just not feel free. Now there's a whole case that sits on counters in gas stations with all different types of these so-called feel free mimic type of products. And it's insane. It's insane.
Thank you, Annette. Yeah. Alex, are you on here? I think I saw you earlier. Do you want to talk about when you were going out?
So pretty similar to what Annette said. One of the things I heard when I asked some of the workers were, who is there a certain like population of people that you see coming in a lot to the vape shops? They said a lot of construction workers do a lot of the 7.0 products, which makes sense if it's being advertised for like pain relief and things like that. I thought that was super interesting. Um, a lot of them said they do get a lot of repeat people coming back throughout the day grabbing items. But what I also thought was interesting, um, yesterday going to the Villa Park store, there was a lot of people actually in that vape shop, and I know it was mentioned earlier, but not one of them was ID'd at all. So I thought that was really interesting. And they were just giving products to them without even IDing. But yeah, it is crazy. And just like how Annette also mentioned, it is you walk in and you just get hit with multiple walls of colors because everything is so colorful and advertising and all of that as well too.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Daria, are you on? Do you want to maybe mention a couple things if you took away anything from going out to the shops?
Hi, yeah. Basically my takeaway is that it's really dangerous, really costly, highly addictive, and yeah, it's good that you're trying to get on top of this.
And Daria was the one who was actually sending me like the most mushroom photos. So like those photos of like those mushroom products, which I'll pull up again in a second. That was largely her. And that actually kind of like inspired me to like ask specifically about the mushrooms when I was going out like over the past couple of days. So I may not have even known that it was going to be that popular until we really started kind of digging over the past week and saw that. So yeah, I just want to hats off to my team. Is there anybody else? I sometimes fail to look at everyone who's on here who had been doing the work with me. I think we covered most of them. So Nini and Kelsey, who you probably know if you've been attending our stuff like the past year through Ampact, they're on their month-long break right now, but they both were also instrumental in going out and like talking to these owners, talking to the employees. I do want to mention because there's a couple opportunities coming up where we might be able to, as a ROSC, and that's not just DuPage, but hopefully also Kane and some others. We got a whole bunch of those countertop Narcan dispensers that'll hold like, 5 or 6 boxes of Narcan that we are now going to try and get installed at some of these shops. Because the education piece is also important, I know at the end of the day they're a shop and they're there to make money, but I don't think there's anything wrong with educating them on being like a good civic partner to people. And, if you're going to be selling stuff like that, let's at least make sure people are like carrying Narcan and like things like that. There's ways that they can at least signal that they're understanding of what it is they're selling to people. So I'll get off my soapbox after that. But yeah, I've got a few minutes. Was there any questions or comments or anything from you guys? Is there anything from this that maybe you're surprised by or anything you want to take away? Judith, our lovely DuPage County Coroner. Judy, good to see you. What do you got for us?
Yes, thank you. I'm trying to get my camera on. So I was doing a little Amazon search while you were talking,
Hmm.
and the Feel Free drink, Amazon sells that online, just to
Yeah.
let you know. So I did look for your shroomifizide, what do they call it? The mushrooms. So they don't
Yes.
sell the max online, but I'm looking at the and it's nootropic mushrooms, and it's basically lion's mane, but they have a picture on this one brand that it's in a club. You can see, it's like purple lights, and in silhouette, you can see people, dancing, and it's one of their photos. It's a euphoric mushroom gummy that amplifies your senses. So it doesn't have the max in it, but I can kind of see how people are going to be confused because if they buy something online and now they're buying this oh, this is max, that means it has more lion's mane in it.
Yes.
So I can see that there's going to be a big confusion that way too. But when I saw the Feel Free that they sell on Amazon, I just kind of wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you. The legend, Mike Pop Murray, everybody.
Hello, how are you? Boy, this
We're
is
good.
scary. This is scary as a grandpa, and because I think my grandkids could just so easily, especially since they're not being carded, try any of these things and think they're okay because of the packaging and all of that. I wonder, do you share this information statewide? And
So
are these
we
stores? If I go in Springfield, Illinois, or Peoria, am I going to see the same thing or in?
yeah, I mean this is like we said, j just because of like the gray area of legalities, it can sometimes be like city to city, jurisdiction to jurisdiction. There's not one beyond like some of the cannabinoids and a couple others. There isn't like some set rules around the age limit for some of these. And the other thing too, I want to mention, I'm glad you brought this up because what we're seeing also with what manufacturers are doing is if, let's say, 7.0 gets scheduled like the DEA wants, which by the way, they're trying to put it in Schedule 1, which is a little weird, but okay. What the manufacturers will do is patent the chemical compounds that are very similar to the thing that's being banned. So then when 7.0 gets banned, they can then switch to 7.0 plus or pseudo and docs, so they already have plans in place for when that does get scheduled. So the issue is really with manufacturers, kind of like the cynical nature of manufacturing with some of these substances. So it's almost like whack-a-mole sometimes, right? It feels like as soon as we get a handle on one, the next one pops up. And it's unfortunately just one of those things like we have to just be vigilant on the education piece. The tricky part too is by itself in a vacuum, a lot of this stuff isn't killing people. Well, I know that sounds bad, but like sometimes unless they see that it's a health risk to that level before some traction happens. But there are still quite a few people that are showing up for treatment for this stuff. I know Dr. Holtzford has talked to me about it at the DuPage Crisis Center. He has people all the time showing up now for 7.0 dependence. This wasn't something that was happening with Kratom a lot in the past couple of years. So it's like it's a very fast changing landscape. And I think that was the impetus for doing this is so every year, at least maybe twice a year, we can let you guys know what we're seeing kind of on the front line part.
Thank you.
But we do what we can to take it to legislation when and where applicable. So yeah, this is the educational component to that, I think. So thank you, Mike. Anybody else have any questions about any of the stuff that we talked about today? Or have you seen any of this that you'd like to point out?
Yeah, hi
Ben's doing his
Jared.
smile and laugh. Hey, Kim. Good to
Hey,
see ya.
good to see you too. This was great. This is Kim Peterson from the Kane County Health Department. And as you know, our tobacco program staff has been doing this in Kane County, and we're about ready to release our report and have a presentation series. So, I think a lot of our findings are very similar. And like you
Yeah.
said, the lack of kind of regulations around these things, or just like the disparity between regulations from place to place, is really interesting. And I hope that we can kind of pair up at certain points too,
Yes.
if we think of um, legislation that we do want to work on, or other things that come up. And I think, as the last gentleman uh, mentioned, parents will be really interested in this. As a parent myself,
Yes.
and working with a lot of different parents, I think this is super important for all of us just to know and be aware of, because even this 7OH, if one of our folks with lived experience at one of our task force meetings hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't even know, like what that is and how much more potent it is than regular kratom. So anyway, I just think this is great, and I think
Thank you.
that we should keep in touch around these things, and work together to like even map things out on a higher
Yes.
level.
Anything we can do, we would love to do that. So yeah, we always look at, it's not just Kane and DuPage and Lake and Will. It's like the whole northern region.
Hmm.
We really can work together on this type of thing. So yeah, we really look forward to that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Can I also just say briefly another issue that we've run into, maybe on the treatment side, because there's a lot of treatment professionals in this room right now, is on the testing for these substances. This is a real challenge sometimes. I remember when I first got into the field like 5 years ago, kratom tests were like $70 a pop. So kratom tests weren't something that we could just do on a daily basis for everybody, or like at Serenity House, a house of 32 men. We can't do that. Now it's gotten better to where, it's become just a standard check off on a send out, depending on who your agreements with. But think about like 7OH or Amida muscaria mushroom or one of these things that's like skirts under. You wouldn't even be able to tell on a standard panel drug test. Like we said with the nitrous, all you would know is if for a chronic user would be his B12 levels, which is like really difficult to try and manage as a treatment professional. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of just say that at the end. In the interest of time, I'm going to give everybody back a couple of minutes. This did get recorded. I'm happy to share the slides. I'm happy to share the recording. It'll be up on YouTube, hopefully, like in the next couple of days. But if you're interested in any of this, just let me know. I'm happy to send it out. Oh, you know what? I'll do this because I forgot to do an icebreaker at the beginning. If anybody wants to do it quickly, I was going to ask, what's the favorite thing on your desk at work? And I had a couple cool ones. So check this out. This is a giant crow figurine that has followed me for like 2 years now, which is one of my favorites. And then my actual favorite is a photo of three different pets begging me for food at the same time. Two dogs and a cat. So this has followed me also everywhere. Ben, what do you have on your desk?
Kinds of junk. I guess I can show this. This was given to me as a thing that was supposed to be given to kids as something that they could, if they were experiencing some kind of stress or trauma, they could hit it or be angry about it. I keep it nearby. I keep my water bottle from Serenity House.
Oh, nice. Ben actually keeps that doll. He pretends it's me when I'm late on deliverables. Just all right, guys. Well, listen, I'll give you your day back. Thank you so much for coming. Like I said, if you're interested in the slides or anything, just let me know. I'll send them out. If anybody wants like an on-site presentation for clients or anything, just let me know. I'm happy to come out and do it. And yeah, we'll see you guys at the next one. Okay. Thanks for coming, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your summer if I don't see you.
Just mind blowing.
Bye, guys.